So, thank you for coming today. My name is Richard Chapman with the KEDC.
Bill Ferris, City of Ridgecrest.
Corey Costello, City of Tehachapi.
Doug Clipperton, Mojave Chamber of Commerce.
John Joyce, Roseman News.
Al Aaron, Aaron Development, Bakersfield.
Alexia Sveda, Kern County. Amanda Barnes, also Kern County.
Dave Janis, China Lake Alliance.
Laura Lynn Wyatt, Kern County Supervisor, Zach Scrivener's office.
Susan Wiggins, City of Tehachapi Mayor. Lydia Cheney, Greater Tehachapi EDC.
David Cunningham, Official Coordinator of Tehachapi.
Trudy Gerald, Associate Vice Chancellor, Economic and Development for Kern Community College District.
Carol Clips, Cal City Chamber Board Member, also Manager of Alta One in both Cal City and Board.
Dave Rutland, the California City Chamber Board.
Renee Rivera, Cal City Chamber Board, and a realtor here in town, Bodega.
Nathan Francis, Realtor for the U.S. Courthouse.
Kenny Green, Mayor, City of Ridgecrest.
Kelly Bearden, CSUB Small Business Development Center.
John Bennett, Mojave Desert News.
Greg Garrett, Tehachapi City Manager.
Cal Rossi, Mayor Wiggins, punching bag.
No, she did. Southern California.
Jay Lacey, Southern California, Edison, Economic Development. And we had Sierra.
Kiara Richardson with the Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance.
So is there actually a video presentation?
No.
Yes, but, is that?
No, it's just talking points for
Okay.
us.
So, Mayor, take it away.
You have the adapter piece for that, right?
Yeah, you gotta do your dog at home to fix that. Where do you want me to stand so you can film this thing?
Right there.
I'm flexible. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Chuck McGuire. I'm the mayor for the city of California City. We've got a lot going on. Because some of the things that we've got going on is one, we're a utility company because we have our own water. And so we just passed a resolution. So we're going to allow electricity. Because one of the big things is that we can't get the electricity that a lot of other areas have. So we're going to be able to do microgrids and mini grids to supply electricity for businesses. We've got the cannabis industry as it stands right now. We've got approximately 12 businesses that are going. We've got about 6 more that are getting ready to go online. And I believe somebody said there was like about 30 other applications pending. What's nice is about that is that everything's low key. A lot of people had no idea that the businesses were up and running, which is fine. You know, that the whole purpose is to keep it low key. And we're looking at doing some things with the airport, also addressing the park because we need to. One of the big problems that we're having right now, because we haven't had the funding to do it, is the reeds situation in the park. You notice the reeds are taking over the water. And so that's going to be addressed. We've got a couple other businesses. One business that we're looking at coming in is a solar panel business where they will manufacture here in town. And there's a couple other things. You got to bear with me. When they had the shooting down at Saugus High School this morning, we got friends and that are friends of the family, and they had their kids going there, so they are fine. But my mind is elsewhere. Other than that, we're as far as public safety wise, we're full staff with our fire department now. We're only one of 2 cities in Kern County that is staffed with its own fire department and not Kern County. And to let you know how busy we are, they're the second busiest engine station in the county. The only one that beats us is Bakersfield. And plus, I think we're in the top 10% of the nation for calls. So we're a little busy. We're expanding a little bit as far as getting a compliance officer dealing with the cannabis. They'll be the person to go to for that, because one of our problems is we've got X amount of people and they've got their jobs to do, but the cannabis portion of this is really taking up a lot of time. So we want to redirect that for one person to handle that. Other than that, we've got a couple of the businesses looking to come into town. And things are starting to look very, very positive. A lot of changes have occurred, and everybody's happy with the changes. So hopefully we'll keep on that path and make everybody else happy too. So that's about it for us.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I will stand up. I wanted to give an economic update. I did bring copies of our market overview on the table over there. So that just came out about 2 months ago. So feel free to grab one. We do have digital versions. At the last meeting, we have our new regional branding initiative we were part of, new website, new look. Our slogan is Kern County, California, where business is boundless. We're getting really good reception from that in terms of looking at folks coming to the website, bounce rates. Kelly, do you know what a bounce rate is?
I don't have checks anymore.
Okay. Bounce rate out. Basically, if someone go to your site maybe by accident and they immediately go to click away, we actually have that dropped in half. So we're looking, people are going right to the website, and the other part of the websites we're seeing is really strip it down to the minimum. Folks want to call a person, talk to a real life person. Our previous website probably had 500 links, and we really boil it down to what are the top 20 links or sublinks that people look at, put that on the site, and then make sure that they call you, right? Otherwise, you may never hear from them. So that's very exciting. Our Energy Summit, Kern County Energy Summit, was yesterday. Anyone attend? They well. A lot of it was about East Kern. Companies like Terrigen, 8 Minute Energy, First Solar, Clearway, discussing what they plan to do. I know there's a ribbon cutting tomorrow in Cantil for 8 Minute Energy. They have it's Springbok 3. Also the ELAN project, if you're familiar with that, that's going to be the largest energy storage system in the country. That's going to power 7% of LA homes. So the key is that people know it's Kern County. I mean, a lot of times you read stories, it says it's near LA. Yeah. So we need to make sure they have the word Kern County. They know these communities, because that's very important. And I think another thing is how do we be better ambassadors and promote what's happening here. I mean, we have, $30 billion of investment in renewable energy, 17,000 megawatts. I know that the keynote speaker, Ron Brownstein, when CNN was talking about energy policy in the age of polarization. So how do we make sure that people understand the importance of energy independence? That shouldn't be political, much like food independence. Actually, last night there was Cal EPA speaking on oil. Cal EPA had a hearing in Bakersfield. It's the AB 74 studies that follow that. They're studying the transition away from oil. How quickly will that happen? Are they listening to Kern County, where 70% of our economic activity is driven by oil prices? We're diverse, yet we have 17,000 megawatts of renewable energy. So you hear a lot of perceptions about oil, negative perceptions, but then we're not even hearing from, frankly, Sacramento about what we're doing for renewable energy. As oftentimes said, countries know about Kern County, yet Sacramento doesn't in terms of renewable energy. There was a discussion too about water. gentleman, Sarge Green, talked about both East and West Kern in terms of what, Sigma lies ahead. So a lot of conversations, but we were excited that there's significant East Kern portion. Other point is, let's see, I'll Kite, which I know some of you came to Edwards. Passes Edwards Air Force Base on, was it September? What time's going?
October 20 something.
Well, thanks Alexia, you and Dave Smith, that was a great tour, especially getting a lot of the West Kern people that didn't really know about what was going on in Edwards. Kite, if you're not familiar with, we're a co-founder with JP Lake and Seed Corps. It's the Kern Initiative for Town and Entrepreneurship. We are going, basically doing a hard launch, and we will, the key for Kite is basically be an umbrella organization. We're not going to tell communities or educational institutions what to do, but we want to cover those stories. What are you working on? Is there an event coming up? There's something called 59 Days of Code. I know I don't know if anyone applied. Kelly, did you write a program or something?
We have plans.
Okay, great. I know they're announcing, and we just sent out an invite. If you're not on this list, let me know. It's at Bakersfield. They're announcing the winner, award winners on Saturday. I just got the notice. But again, we want to make sure that East Kern is part of this, involved with this. So we want to have future meetings with Kite out there. And we had last East Kern meeting in Tehachapi, we talked a lot about Kite and the importance. And we have people actually from Bitwise and Shift 3 Technology affiliated with them at that meeting. Bitwise announced they're going, I think it's 35,000 square feet in Bakersfield across from the Padre. Again, our goal is to get them throughout the county, or at least affiliations throughout the county. It's not just in Bakersfield, right? There's so much innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship. So we're working to be that conduit as we move forward. So thank you, and I know Sierra with Gavia.
Hello all, my name is Kiara with Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance. Just a few quick updates. We have released our labor market study. It encompasses housing, and South Street Digital actually designed for regulation small businesses in the Greater Antelope Valley. So our labor market study is on our website, and I did bring a few USBs if you are interested in that, and it has some of our capability brochures on there, so healthcare, aerospace, and things of that nature. Also for Gavia, we have an event coming up. We're partnering with the Antelope Valley Board of Trade on having a holiday breakfast Tuesday, December 17th. So if you're interested or available, please grab a flyer. And also, we are in the process of doing the data collection for the 2020 Roundtable Report, so please get your information into us so that we can have an awesome report on telling how great the Antelope Valley is and why businesses should come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kern County. You have a presentation. Somebody, looking at somebody. Oh, yeah. No, you all are in the district. We have the districts are separate. Right.
Got it. So we are Kern County then.
Well, last I heard.
Got it. Okay. All right. Mojave. I mostly listed the goals that we're currently working on and going to give a little bit of an update. And at the end, we'll talk about some of the recent events that we've all three participated in that we can kind of disseminate some information amongst the group. So I've been working with the Mojave Chamber of Commerce to revamp it a little bit, give it a little bit of an update, and we'll be adding some economic development information soonish. The three of us have also been working on an economic and logistic profile to highlight properties and everything like that. We touched on that in the Tehachapi meeting where we submitted for Project KP, which was really exciting, and we're going to continue to look for projects like that. to make sure people are aware of what we have to offer out in our various regions, and that they should come and bring business out here. We've got way more space than LA, so come this direction. And then we've also been working on the caboose, and I'll talk about this, Doug, you don't have to, because this is my pet project. When we've been working on developing the set plan to bring the caboose onto the Mojave Chamber-owned lot so that everyone can still see it. It's in great condition. Doug and I visited it yesterday, and I hadn't seen it up close like that, and it's fantastic. I'm so excited and so motivated to make this happen. After it gets moved to the lot, we will be developing some phases for further developing that lot, and we'll see what that looks like. We'll keep you guys updated. Yes, okay. Alexi and I had some conversations with Dr. Dave Smith at Edwards Air Force Base, as he likes to say. He's Edwards city manager. And we were working on, what this Edwards community partnership is going to look like, what he would like to see out of it, and we're bringing to the table what the communities would like to see out of it. And we will be working with community members to develop that into a group and then see how we can proceed from there. But he is very excited about the opportunity to have that kind of a group to work with, and definitely wants to be a part of it as much as he's allowed to be. Been working on code compliance in Mojave. That's going to be an ongoing thing. I'm going to be working with Public Works as much as possible to ensure that the code enforcement program is working efficiently, because there's a lot of code violations kind of in the more rural areas, and it needs a little bit more attention to kind of try to fix up some of those areas. We're always pursuing opportunities for housing and amenity developments in whatever shape that comes. Housing is an issue across the state for various reasons. Ours differ from the Bay Area and LA areas, but we're always still trying to find ways and find developers that are willing to come and take a look at the area and maybe make some new housing. We participate in KITE. Each of us is on one of the subcommittees working towards helping to grow entrepreneurship in Kern County, and specifically East Kern, and make sure that we are. So, Suzette, you are up.
So, I had an opportunity this last couple of months to participate in a lot of, and help organize a lot of events. One of the things I participated in was the International Council of Shopping Centers. It was really the first time I had a chance to go to an organization convention like that and be able to see what was out there and available. While the city is actually looking at some specific franchises coming in, I also was looking for some things that maybe instead of just bringing the franchise in, maybe we can help develop some of our local people to consider handling a franchise in our area. So I have gathered information on that, and I'm working on disseminating the information out to some possible people in our community who might be interested in following up on the franchise. We've had a lot of trainings and workshops. One of them was Caltrans came into the Ridgecrest area and did a workshop for us. We continue to support construction contractors, businesses, entrepreneurs in identifying what they can do to connect with programs that are out there to help them for free, to make sure that they can develop their businesses, qualify for grants and programs that the county, state, and federal government have to help support new and ongoing businesses. There was an opportunity for a group to get together. It was focused mainly on China Lake after the earthquake, we had a lot of damage, not necessarily in town, but on the base. And with our mayor and our other officials in town, they've been working with our government officials to help support up to $4.1 billion to help rebuild and re-equip China Lake, not to meet new demands, but to continue to support the demands that are there and make sure that the buildings and the infrastructure is safe, not only for the projects to go on, but for the people who are going to be working on those projects. So East Kern, West Kern, that we're looking at growing it so that it truly does encompass all of East Kern and West Kern. But right now, that one meeting, that first meeting was focused on China Lake and trying to address some of their issues. One of the things that did come up during that was the fact that all of our TV news, and it had to do with talking about the earthquake, all our TV news comes from LA. We don't get any news for us in this valley unless we have an earthquake or, something outstanding happens. That shouldn't be what we accept. We should be able to move into a situation where we're working with possibly at least one station out of Bakersfield so that we can connect. We're talking about connecting East and West Kern. Well, how do we do that if East Kern gets all their TV focus from LA? So there's a couple of people working on that, seeing if there's a possibility of connecting the East Kern area to the Bakersfield area and actually being a Kern County station. Regions Rise Together, that was put on by the state. And I went to one of their mini groups. I didn't make it to the summit. I think Alexia's talking about that. We have a program in Ridgecrest called Kindergarten to Career. It's taking Sarah Coso as well as Sierra Sands and our independent schools to kind of put them together and help within our community develop a program that not only gives support to Kindergarten to Career, but also allows us to identify pathways to allow for our students in our community to develop towards being a welder, being an engineer, being a teacher, being in medical field. Those are all things that we need in our community. And the question is, in working together, can we find a way to build those pathways so that we are able to bring our students all the way around. Even if they have to leave to go to a four-year school, we want to have an opportunity to bring them back and be a part of our community again. The East Kern Capital Summit, that was a very interesting program put on by the SBDC. Really enjoyed getting to know some of the other players in town. But one of the things that I found out was the USDA, they have a lot of programs out there. Now I've got a ranch and I used USDA to help with some of the things out at our ranch, but I didn't realize how much is available there for free or for little to help support communities to build. So I'm going to continue to work on getting more information on that. I had the opportunity to Hyatt from the Lake Isabella area invited me up for a couple-hour tour of what their fire damage was, what their needs are in the Lake Isabella area. We didn't get out to the Kernville area, but I really appreciated her taking the time to kind of bring me up to speed. And even though some of what we're doing should touch Lake Isabella, the specific grant that the three of us are working under didn't include Lake Isabella. But I have been told to stay in touch with them and help them as I can. So the opportunity to go learn more was really important to me. Loved the Edwards Air Force Base kite meeting. It was outstanding. Putting that together was a tour bus going around and checking out all of the airfields and important spots around that area. We went to the museum, and then we had an outstanding meeting for kite. I challenge Ridgecrest to find a way to provide the same thing, maybe to this group in a couple of months, to maybe take them and show them a little bit of what's happening on China Lake and have some kind of time so that you can see what's happening on China Lake. You're not going to see a lot of buildings falling down. That's not what happens. I can't predict earthquakes, but I can say not all the buildings have fallen down. The problem is there's a concern of keeping them standing up. So that's why the huge amount of money needed for China Lake. But it would be interesting to be able to take everybody around and be able to show them a little bit, because not everybody has access. And it would be a great time. Petroglyph Festival. It was an outstanding day, no wind or very little. It's 2 days, first weekend in November. Was really proud of the two museums. Matarango Museum put on the Petroglyph tours. China Lake Museum was there. All of these things I'm involved in some way supporting it. Petroglyph Festival, I worked with the RACVB on supporting the needs that they had, making sure that things were happening. And in regards to the RACC, they have achieved the ability to have a welcome center in Ridgecrest. It's the 19th Welcome Center in California. They're planning at this time to have it up and running by July 2020. And it will be an opportunity for all of our local communities to make sure your information is there, because there's considered quite a bit of traffic in our region, and going through that, going to Death Valley, going up to East Kern. So this will give not just Ridgecrest, but our whole East Kern area an opportunity to really let the tourists coming into town know what we have.
So sorry to, I don't have a gavel, but if you could.
Yep, okay. Okay, we had government contracting for contractors right the day before CCAP Industry Days. CCAP had Vice Admiral Moran talking about a lot of things. The one thing that really resonated with me, he said that the most important thing we can do is provide a community for our military bases to live in, so that we as a community are living and working together. The Energy Summit was yesterday morning at Bakersfield. I didn't know CO2 could be put back down into the ground and kept and stored that way, but I do now. I don't know how they do it, but I know they do it. Last thing, Leadership Ridgecrest is a Chamber of Commerce program that got started a couple of years ago. We did not have a program that started this year because we didn't have some leadership positions filled. We did have someone step up last night, and so we are looking at having a program starting in September of 2020, and it's a program that initiates younger professionals into what their community is, not just playing in it, but actually helping run and supporting the community. So, been busy, looking forward to more. If you have any questions, see me afterwards.
Okay, Alexa, you have 3 minutes.
We're going to talk about subject once,
This one, expand STEM education and create career pathways. I've been working with at least 3 different organizations on base. There's the 412 Test Wing. There's also the Air Force Research Laboratory, which is, we all know, is the rocket site. And then we also have startups. And really making inroads with them and making sure that East Kern, in this case, Southeast Kern, is part of the conversation, and that some of their efforts and their monies are going everywhere around the base instead of just south of the base. But it is a two-way street, and that's why we need to be having that conversation. If we're not talking to these parties, they don't know about us. And so we've been making wonderful inroads with them and helping each other wherever we can to connect the dots. And I'm talking about all of the communities. That means Mojave, Tehachapi, Boron, California City, and Rosamond. Of course, also still talking with Sarah and working with their career technical team and making sure that that's also kept in mind. How do we feed into the schools down here so that we're working with the college up in Ridgecrest. Expand retail, Suzette mentioned ICSC. If you guys don't remember, I went to the one in Las Vegas, which is the big national one. All 3 of us went to the one in LA and made some really good contacts there. Yes, having conversations about bringing a hotel, grocery, and some other retail, and there is some serious interest. Attract housing development. Yes, like Amanda mentioned, everybody in California has a housing shortage. The base keeps saying we need more housing. So it is something that I'm working on and also trying to find out, where we've got land, we've got developers that are interested, where now do we get the funding and the capital? Expand medical and attract urgent care. So we do have medical here in Cal City, but we wanted more medical, and we are having a serious conversation about urgent care. We did attract an FQHC, a federally qualified health care. I think I got it right. You get the gist. Healthcare center, maybe that's the C. They have expanded here. It's Bart's Altadena. And they will start bringing their mobile unit here starting next week. I just found that out yesterday. They are also including Boron. Boron lost their physician several months ago and have absolutely no medical. So the conversation was always not just California-centric, but the entire area, and they are planning on servicing the entire area. They hope to be having the ribbon cutting in the very beginning of January. I'll talk about broadband when we talk about Rosamond. And so, first thing, Rosamond. All those businesses have to leave town every day to deposit their money going into Lancaster and Palmdale. They need a bank, and it's a priority in Rosamond right now. Finding a location has been a bit of a challenge. Same thing in about the past week. I think we now have 3 or 4 locations to look at, more to follow. EDA funding, I'll talk about that with Boron. Broadband and fiber. So probably all of us have an internet connection, some of us a little slower than others, and a lot of us don't have fiber. So Rosamond does not have fiber. California City does not have fiber except for a couple of very key places. Then the unincorporated area around Tehachapi does not have fiber, and it is a challenge to bring it in because of some of the state rulings. When Amanda and I went to the Economic Summit in Fresno, I sat in on the broadband breakout session. It was very informative. I've been trying to think outside of the box. I have been talking to some folks that could bring in fiber, and I made some really good connections and contacts at the state level, and then other ways of looking at this from a different direction. How can we fund this and bring this into our area so we're not losing businesses and we're not losing people because, oh, you don't have fiber, I'm going to go elsewhere. And that has happened in all cases.
Interest in the wayfinding signage plan, I think I've mentioned this in the past. We've got real problems with the signs in this area, incorrect, missing, antique, and that was an issue specifically for Rosamond. I have been having a lot of conversations with Caltrans. Good news, I'm touring someone from Caltrans next week through the entire area, including Mojave. So Tehachapi, again, signage. We will be talking about that, and Corey and I touched on this a little bit over lunch, trying to make a little more inroads with wine growers so we're all on the same page. They've also asked me to work on a website for them. Improving visuals for Old Town, Supervisor Scribner gave a good update on that at the last meeting. I don't have anything new to report on that. And then Makerspace, let's talk about that for a minute. It is the library that is doing the purchasing, and they are the ones doing the first steps when it comes to Makerspace, but it comes to us to help with implementation. The base is getting a Makerspace for their high school students, and they have an amazing connection to a young man who graduated from Stanford and has been very successful with Makerspaces in the Bay Area. I reached out to him, and he is willing to welcome the volunteers that we find so that he can train them for us. And they then will be able to go out into all of our neighborhoods and will have really good knowledge of how to engage the folks that come in and use that equipment. And that board. So working on the Boron Chamber of Commerce website, I was hoping my contact would be here. I will leave that for the next time. And then pursuing infrastructure projects to receive EDA funding. Frankly, looking for that anywhere in the area, as is Amanda and as are Suzette. And the three of us went to a training in Chico, and it was amazing. And it's given us a lot of tools and other ways of looking at what we can do, but we will go into detail in a minute on that one. I will skip over the neon signs, medical services. So as I mentioned, Bart's Altadonna is here, and they will be servicing with that mobile unit. They will now be able to service Boron, which is really good news for them. And then education. I will take care of that on the next slide. And I already mentioned a few of these. So the 412 Test Wing, AFRL, Starbase. Starbase is bringing kids to the base. They have their new director has now arrived, and she would love to see Starbase, literally it's called 2.0, where then Starbase, eventually in a couple of years, now expands into all of our schools in our area, which would be amazing. And I want to make sure that that conversation stays fresh and that happens. The Kern Women's Business Center toured Norma Dunn a few weeks ago. She is going to start probably in January doing training in all of our communities. And the only thing that she's looking for that she still needs is she needs some teachers. So if anyone's interested in teaching business, let me know, and I will pass you on to Norma. CSUB, one of the professors, this was through a kite connection from their business program, was very interested in our area, also toured him around. He now has a better idea of some of the businesses or the business veins that his students could be going into and concentrating on here in East Kern. Instead of them leaving, let's retain them. And Bakersfield Community College, they have the new launch pad. I had a chance to stop in there, learn a little bit more about that, and started the conversation of in our communities, wherever we can live stream. They would love to live stream some of their classes and workshops into our area, and at some point maybe even come out to our area, teach a workshop, and live stream it back to Launchpad. Again, trying to build those bridges between East and West, between the base and our community, and some other connections. Amanda, you've pretty much covered Edwards Air Force Base. We're doing really well connecting with Dr. Smith. Southern California Edison, Jay, I think you got a good tour between Amanda and me that one day. Thank you for coming out. And then the Air Force Test Center Small Business Program, they basically walk small or large businesses in our area through the paperwork mountain to become a subcontractor on base. And I've talked to businesses that say, yeah, I'm not going to do that, it's too difficult. We now have someone on base who's going to take that training to each and every one of our communities and is going to basically hold hands and enable these businesses to become subcontractors on base, which I think is fabulous news. And then I mentioned the Caltrans, they'll be coming through next week.
Great, thank you. Well, it's on tape. You want to see on YouTube?
Oh, wait, we had one more slide, didn't we?
So.
Technically, yes.
Oh.
Technically, yes. Can we do it really, really quick? We can do it from here. EDA?
So EDA, the big takeaway from the workshop is that Kern County qualifies for an 80% match for infrastructure and job creation programs. Talk to us if you have an interest.
Yeah, much better than the 50-50 that we thought it was.
Yes.
And we went to the Economic Summit, which was very eye-opening and lots of great connections. And I don't know, we forgot. It's been kind of a head-spinning amount of information that's been.
But we're going to meet with about 475 businesses, and that could be between 1 hour and 100 hours or more in some cases. And it all depends on what benefits are they going to provide in your communities. What type of economic development are they going to bring, because we are not a social program. So thank you again for all those. One of the more recent ones, and kind of sticking with the trend of innovation in East Kern, was we had talked, I heard a little earlier about our capital summits, and we did about 35 training programs this year with over 1,000 attendees. But the capital summits are special for me because we talk about 50 different lending programs, or debt, or equity, or grant programs during those capital summits. And one of them was an East Kern business. I won't say where or who, but they are located near an airport. And they recently received a $2.1 million loan from Mid-State Development Corporation, which is for fixed assets. And the loan was basically, the Mid-State portion was at 3.36%. So incredibly low rates right now and great opportunities. So that is one instance of where you have an innovative business that has been able to access credit and actually grow employees and actual capital infusion in the area. Lastly, well, two things. One of our preferences next year is going to continue on two topics, and that is going to be the Small Business Innovation Research Program, which we are continuing. We worked in Ridgecrest with many funding partners and partners in the community. But we're going to continue that because there's still $3.5 billion that's going out from the federal government to small businesses, and we're getting none of it. And it is a difficult process, and we're going to continue to do that and use some of these unique, innovative grant funding programs, but also we're going to expand into procurement in a bigger way. We've already added one procurement specialist this year. We're going to be adding another one, and we're going to focus our procurement efforts on both bases in East Kern. We've had a great relationship with China Lake over the years, with Gary Koo with his small business programs. We just want to get more Kern County businesses access to those particular funds that are budgeted by both bases. Lastly, Richard, nice job yesterday on the energy side. I enjoyed it. I was a guest at Blue Tech Valley, which was one of your sponsors, and unfortunately they didn't let me know that half their table was not filled. I could have easily filled that. But Blue Tech is kind of an innovation and technology program that approached Richard and I probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And we're seeing clients now come through that in the water, energy, and technology sectors that are entrepreneurs that are coming up with ideas and hopefully building businesses out of those ideas. That's all I got. Happy New Year. The last meeting before the new year.
You mean the meeting's going to end at the end of the year?
Oh. I don't like you all that much.
Well, okay. Because I haven't talked yet. No. Well, thank you. Well, we don't have District 1. Well, we have District 2, so you get More time.
Now? Sure? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Laura Lynn Wyatt. I am field representative for Supervisor Zach Scrivener. On the economic side of things, you've heard a lot from these ladies over here today, so I'm going to make my report really quick. I just want to talk about a couple of new wind projects that you were going to hear about. And there's already some uproar from communities. Oh my gosh, they're going to put windmills in my community. And that's not the case. These two new wind projects that are being talked about are actually replacement of some of the old, antiquated, if you look at Tehachapi, like the wind, we call it the wind corridor, the wind mountain, right? And there's really small old ones that are at the top of the ridge line. You're going to see those slowly being taken out and replaced with larger, more efficient windmills.
You said we took one row off already, right? On the way out of town today, I'm like, that looks awesome.
It looks a little, yeah, it's changing. We're so used to seeing them. It's changing the landscape a little bit. So
Repowering or powering up, what is the terminology?
repowering, yes. And then there are a few solar projects that we'll be talking about in the future, but that's all I have for today unless there's questions for me. No? Okay, thanks. No, Happy New Year. I guess we're going that way now, right?
Well, I know, speaking of Boron, we have Mary Beth going to make it, but if you want to talk about, now you have a new name, not you, but the company. What is the name?
Sorry, we're still the same company.
Do you want to come up here or am I?
I thought it'd make everyone turn back.
I'm not the other. Yeah, right there, so we don't have to.
Right here? All right.
Yeah.
So this is a report. You've probably heard a lot of rumors that we're up to something, but we finally, in the last couple of weeks, come out public nationally. We are now entering the lithium market out of our boron operations. So boron, as some of you may know, that lithium has a tendency to be in the same general vicinity. And so we do have lithium in our process, our ore body. And so we've now completed the first stage of, I guess, exploratory stage of being able to produce lithium out of our ore body. And most of it is, we have 90 years of stockpile from our waste stream that has lithium in it. So we are looking at a process to go back through our waste piles to extract that, as well as continue to extract it as we continue to process borates. Right now, as I said, we're just in the initial stage. We're trying to scale it up and prove it that we can do it through the process and get that perfected. The first phase, we are looking at about $10 million investment to start a pilot project, which we would produce about 10 metric tons a year of lithium. And if everything goes well and the market's right, there is a possibility of the potential of increasing that to a larger thing, where our ambition is to become the largest lithium provider in the country. So that would be another $50 million investment to produce about 5,000 metric tons a year. To give you an idea of what that equates to, that's enough lithium for batteries of 1,500 Tesla cars a year. So that's kind of where our ambitions are in the lithium market. So,
Quick question.
yes.
Are you doing that all from tailings, or are you also in parallel developing a process to be the first pass while you're doing the boring?
So it will be, even if through the, as we process out our borate for processing, that waste stream will have lithium, so we will be doing that as well as going through.
At the same time.
Correct. So what we're saying is that we will do it while we're making borates, but we also have a 90-year supply of tailings to work through as well. So that kind of adds the life to our business.
Will this cut into the imports from China?
I'm not sure on the market on that part of what that will do.
Because I understand that quite a bit of our lithium is now coming from it.
Correct.
So
Yep.
embargo.
So, yep, we really don't know. The market still continues to change in the lithium as demand's increasing on that. So, thanks.
Thank you. And no question?
Yes.
You said the 5,000 tons a year, that's what would power 1,500 Tesla cars? Or was it another?
1,500 batteries for 1,500 Tesla cars. So there, you could probably look at references. We've been in Forbes, Money, and LA Times in the recent weeks. So a lot of those statistics are out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I know Amanda talked about Mojave, but Doug, you had anything to
Yeah.
add? All right, we have the,
One of, a few things happening with Mojave. I know everybody's probably aware the Strata launch flew their first and only flight of that giant airplane last April, and then with the death of Paul Allen, what's going to happen? I've been wondering what's going to happen. The whole hangar's been very quiet every time I go by there. A few weeks ago, there were news stories that someone has purchased Strata launch from Paul Allen's heirs. And then I learned recently that Strata launch is actually starting to hire people. So, don't know any more than that, but, you know, somebody who's connected with people who work at Scale Composites informed me that there are people jumping from Scale over to Strata launch, so I guess that means they're hiring people. So that's good news. The transit center in Mojave is coming along quite well. This is a real transit center. It's not going to be a little bench by the curb at Carl's Jr. anymore once it's finished. It's looking really good. It's going to be a real transit center where the 50-some buses that travel through Mojave every day, that includes Amtraks and Greyhounds as well as local buses, will have a place to pull in, pick up passengers, drop them off. It'll have a real building where people can sit out of the weather, use the restroom. We'll have a lounge for the drivers to take a break. So this is going to be great for all of the transportation that comes through our area to encourage people to use the buses instead of avoiding being dropped off at a curb. So that's looking good. I just wanted to mention, there was a mention about career technical education and people needing those. There is a Mojave adult school located at Mojave Junior Senior High School. It's a real state sanctioned and recognized adult school with real principal and real staffing and real programming. It has one of the best welding programs you're going to find in the area. The shop, people who come into this shop and look at this shop are amazed at what they have there and what they can teach students. So there is a resource there for people to learn this valuable trade. Also, as far as career technical education, there is an airframe and power plant program in development in California City at the high school. And that is going to be, it's been somewhat in operation, but it's going to be FAA sanctioned. It will be articulated with the AMP program at Antelope Valley College, so students can get a jump start on their airframe and power plant education. So being an aerospace valley, that should help us. There will be a grand opening kickoff thing probably in a couple months or so there'll be more information coming out about that. So that's.
We have a Plane Crazy Saturday coming up. I know Bill always.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And Plane Crazy Saturday every third Saturday of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Who's running that career technical education center?
My wife.
So I need to give her a shout out.
Well, since she started, I really proud. She went back and she got her administrative credential. She developed the Mojave Adult School, and she was the principal of it, and she means business. So.
Thank you. Let's see, Bill, did you want to add?
Sure. So, Suzette talked a lot about ICSC. Because of our attendance at ICSC, Ridgecrest is now poised to open 2 new hotels. A Town Place Suites by Marriott should happen groundbreaking should happen the next 6 months or so, followed by a college later in the year. We have 3 fast casual restaurants that all we met at the ICSC show, and they're waiting for tentative track maps right now, and as soon as those are approved and underway, we should see construction next year or so. At this point, I'd like to turn over to Mr. David Hans, who will talk about GSA and
China Lake.
China Lake.
Most of you know the base China Lake accounts for roughly 86% of the economy of the Indian Wells Valley. So obviously the hit from the earthquake is severe up there in terms of impact to the base itself and to the economy. The numbers down have been reset several times now as we've had a chance to more fully look at what the damage was, what needs to be replaced, et cetera. And we're down now total to around 3.9, between 3.9 and 4 billion, still no money. The plan had been for the Navy to submit the repair replacement monies in the budgets for 2020, which we are currently in the fiscal year 2020, but we don't have a budget yet, and also continuing into 2021. So that 3.9 billion was to go across those 2 years in a couple bills. I won't go into the detail. We had across the board bipartisan support to do exactly that, and in spite of, we were working against some of the wall pressures and where monies might come out of the defense budget taken by the administration, et cetera, and the politics surrounding that. We thought we had all those tamped down, and then the hand grenade was thrown into the mix about starting the impeachment process. And if you've been following the news, they separated much of all of the federal budget into mini buses, small units that funded certain parts of the federal budget. 4 of them have been passed through the Senate for appropriations. None of those was defense or homeland security. Defense or homeland security are the two that really get into this partisan fight between the two factions, because wall funding is a piece of it, defense overall is a piece of it, and being held hostage to this process are 1 base damaged by earthquake, China Lake, and 3 bases damaged from hurricanes last year that all require monies to rebuild at some significant damage. What we're looking at now, I got off the phone with some of the folks in DC this morning, coming out of the sessions, is the continuing resolution that is operating the government right now as we speak is going to expire on November 21st, next week. They were looking to have the agreements done before November 21st. It looks like they're not going to get done. The argument right now is about how long to do the next extension of the continuing resolution. As of this morning, it looks like December 20th. They will extend a month. They're going to punt, but they're going to use the Christmas holidays as the forcing function to get them to do something. If that's unsuccessful, the next one will be another 1 month until January. So the situation we're in is right now we're only, why this is important is it's federal money, and you can't expend any monies on things that haven't been already authorized. That's under a continuing resolution. So we can only use 19 monies that were authorized for general repair to correct some of the major damage on the base until we get a new budget that authorizes new things, military construction, replacement, those kinds of things. That's all held hostage. If we end up with a continuing resolution for the whole year, the strategy now is that we're going to go in for an emergency supplemental for China Lake and each of the 3 other bases that were damaged by natural disasters. But nonetheless, it's holding up the start on construction. And it's all lined up, all the documentation. It is really unbelievable the amount of detailed documentation for every project that's all ready to go on the base. That's a year ahead of all the other bases that are out there that have damage. And it's all we need is for Congress to pass the bills or get the emergency supplemental in there. But meanwhile, we're not headed towards the full replacement value. The base is operating about 80% capacity right now. Suzette mentioned Vice Admiral Moran. He is the head of all Navy research, development, test, evaluation, and acquisition programs for the Navy and the Air Force. He's also a former commander of China Lake. So he knows what that base is, which is not known by a lot of other folks. He re-emphasized last week the Navy's commitment to it, to requesting full funding, to rebuilding it for its mission as it currently exists now and for the future. Not new work yet, though, as Suzette talked about. So that's the task we're facing right now, working with these folks to stay up what's going on in Washington with support. We stay in touch with all the bipartisan folks that are lined up behind us to make sure if you're not sitting at the table and banging on your plate, they forget about you. So that's what we've been doing quite a bit. The other thing I'll mention is the number one threat to the base in terms of encroachment that they have publicly put out was water. And you all might know that the Indian Wells Valley is one of the critical overdraft basins in the state, and we have to have the plan submitted under SGMA that was mentioned earlier by January 31st. Well, the first draft of the plan came out last Monday, and we had our first opportunity for the public and the two committees of representatives of the public to review it last Thursday. It's now out there, and we were in the overdraft is 4 times what nature is refreshing into the basin. So everybody is going to get hurt. Some are going to get hurt more than others. A lot of folks are now coming to that realization. The next month will be colorful as we work through the public review of the plan, and the supervisors will have to adopt the plan around the 3rd week in January to submit it in the timeline by January 31st. As I said, this is critical, but we're on the path of that, and why it's really important to be the number one encroachment. There has to be a plan in place for the Navy and Department of Defense to say, I want to put $4 billion back into China Lake. Not only build them to proper earthquake structure, and by the way, the buildings that were up to earthquake standards were not damaged. Most of those buildings, the $4 billion, et cetera, were built in the 40s, 50s. That's where most of the damage came from. There's some big concrete structures, et cetera, that took damage. So having a plan in place is something we can point to when we try to get F-35 software development, which is a huge, hundreds of millions of dollars program, and we work to get that kind of thing. So those are the critical things for the base, and therefore the economy of the Indian Wells Valley, even as we try to diversify. So thanks.
East Kern community supporting your efforts to secure the $4 billion. So again, that's the great thing about this group. Very nimble, working together to help all communities. So we have, well, I know John, you're filming, so you're not allowed to speak, right?
No, I'm going to impose upon my confrere here to hold the camera for me.
Point this at you.
Just aim it. Yeah, make sure I fit in there. Economic milestones in Roseman over the past month. The X-57, first electronic airplane that NASA has put together. We went and saw it Friday at the Armstrong Center, and they're installing the electronic engines and listing a whole lot of short-haul commerce that's going to develop because of these electronic airplanes. They're quiet and efficient. Family Dollar opened on Roseman Boulevard. So now we have 3 dollar stores in Roseman and 5 marijuana shops.
Partridge in a pear tree.
That's right. We have a new pharmacy just opened up. Dr. Habod quit Rite Aid and decided to open his own shop. And so we have a new pharmacy. He's stressing patient relationship, which he couldn't provide at Rite Aid. We have, let's see, we have, the water reclamation plant that we talked about at some of our other meetings. Friday, we had our groundbreaking. This is a $15 million plant to take the effluent stream from Roseman, which is about 1.3 million gallons a day, and clean it up and recharge it back in the ground. And then that will give us credit to pump water out of our wells that we lost from the adjudication. We lost they said we were using 3,000 acre feet, and they cut it down to 400. So we have 5 years, we have to replace that. So doing this would replace about 1,000 acre feet a year. And an acre foot of water today in perpetuity sells for about $6,500. So that's 6.5 million that we would be saving with this new plant. So we're happy to get that going, and if we have water, Roseman will continue to grow.
Thank you. That should be.
Thanks.
On the, I know a lot of you were the last meeting. We were at the World Wind and Solar headquarters in Tehachapi. Some news on that. Buddy and Nikki Cummings have sold their final portion of that business, and they've sort of, I guess, retired from World Wind and Solar at this moment, which is, I think, bittersweet for them because they founded it, and they have a great story, and so that obviously grew into a great business. It'll continue to be housed at 228 West Tehachapi Boulevard. They still own the building, and Whirlwind leases from them. But the good news for us is now they have a little more time on their hands to put their energy into their Village Co project. That is the co-working space, bank, cafe, and salon in downtown Tehachapi. They've actually started the demolition on that. So the timing of Bitwise and Bakersfield announcing their presence probably couldn't be better because it creates a partnership, hopefully, between Bitwise and Village Co. When they get running, they might kind of get open around the same time as well. So I made that aware to Nikki yesterday, and she was all about kind of looking into that. So good news is that project's moving forward. We're excited about that. It was an old thrift store, originally built as a grocery store years ago, and it's going to get reused and have a really cool vibe to downtown to add that co-working space and cafe there as well. Also with the KITE initiative online would be give an opportunity for entrepreneurs in this side of Bakersfield for sure. We've been busy and a lot of vocal opposition. My pal Cal over there in Southern California, Edison, and the good news is Cal and I have known each other for so long. Like it's like mutual destruction. We have so many secrets on one another, right? So we just, yeah, exactly. So like we just, but no, I think a lot of what we've been talking about, what Greg has said, what I've said, we've talked about the economic impact of businesses, has helped Cal, because Cal locally, the local team gets it. It's been trying to get the other people to understand shutting off a city doesn't make a ton of sense when we're not going to start a fire in our area. Meanwhile, you shut the city off, you shut off the surrounding areas, there's nothing for anybody, there's no services for anybody, grocery, gas. At one point, we had no gas stations open. We had one station that ran a generator, and the lines were literally like the 1970s again.
Yeah.
And so really it's important to have that dialogue, and I think we're making some headway in that. And that's something that we're tracking from both the city and with the EDC, really what the economic impact was to those businesses that were shut off on multiple occasions. Our rail safety project is kicking off. The contract was awarded. When that starts construction next year, new at-grade crossings for all the downtown area. So the 3 we have downtown. Also adds curb gutter sidewalk to 8th Street on the north side, which has had a lot of investment in the last last year. So that's going to have a big impact to that kind of downtown extension area. Tehachapi's drawn a lot of attention lately from the Bakersfield media. We've had like 3 economic stories in the last month. The last one was what KBAK called it the secret boom, apparently. But they were focusing on really our new retail opportunities, and then specifically dealing with our Kmart building being reused. They announced they're pretty much in their final days at this point, but brokers have a great plan to actually subdivide the building and create a mixed-use retail. So it's cool, and we've got a great plan going, and so we have that continues to tell a big story. Design's underway for the Walmart out parcels. Kern Schools Federal Credit Union has an approval. They're going. The owner of that space is going through the planning commission to get the entire area designed, and there's a couple other folks on the hook for the remaining out parcels there. Retail does follow rooftops. We have 2 projects at about 1,200 housing units that are in the plan development phase. One of them, we have a draft environmental impact report on our desk. Matter of fact, I read through it the last 2 days. Don't all be jealous. I didn't read all. I read the environmental impact report itself, which summarized all the special reports. But the planner left them all on my desk, like I was going to read them all. I just read the Cliff Notes version. Anyway, those are getting closer to permitting processes. And speaking of which, Tina, I know you're here. I'm going to give you a scoop right now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
And Bill, you brought up earlier as well, but the Town Place Suites by Marriott in Tehachapi, as of like 20 minutes ago, just pulled their permit. So the one in Capitol Hills that's been talked about for a very long time, the check's in hand is what the Development Services Director said. I just texted him. He said, I got it.
You can make payroll.
That's right. But the Town Place Suites by Marriott out by the hospital has been probably about maybe about a year they've been talking. And they had planning commission approval, and they were just going through a few things, financing, and so they have pulled their permit today to start construction on the roads. Oh gosh, what is that? Can you remember the room count, Greg? 89. 89, there you go. 3-story deal, which is out by the hospital, which is it's needed out there. And speaking of the hospital, it celebrated their 1 year in its new facility. They put out this these numbers. They had 13,000 patients in the ER in 1 year, which is 3 of 5 residents in Greater Tehachapi. They had 120 patients actually get surgery in that hospital because they do actually have surgical capabilities. So they had 120 surgeries, 64,000 inpatient and outpatient lab tests, 525 inpatient admitted to the hospital, 7,000 imaging tests performed. It's the region's first echocardiography program that was launched in the last year. And there was over $800,000 donated by the community for life-saving equipment. A lot of that came from the Hospital Guild, which it's a thrift store downtown, and these ladies, they take everything you give them, and they turn around and they sell it, and that money goes directly back to the hospital when they have big needs. And so they stepped up big this past year. So hospital celebrated its 1 year, and there was a lot of it's definitely, not only you hear that it saved lives, but we know people personally that collapsed and had a heart issue. They never would have made it to Bakersfield. They would have passed away. The fact that they got to our hospital, then they got stabilized, and then airlifted to Bakersfield for more intense care, it saved their life. There's been many stories like that, so it's been a great addition, and they're doing some fantastic numbers. So.
And you're presenting in Bakersfield tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow, Bakersfield Association Realtors, that kind of feeds into the whole conversation, the attention that we're receiving out of Bakersfield. I'll be presenting the Bakersfield Association Realtors, their commercial brokers sort of forum and monthly meeting that they have. They invited us to come because they've been hearing the same stories as well, and so they want to, I guess, get in on the action. So
I have a list of stuff I want.
Okay, yeah, and just in case anybody's wondering, no, I don't have a Costco coming. That's like the 6th. I got a text message today. I just
Or a bowling alley.
No bowling alleys, no coffee.
So we have about 7 minutes left, so comments? Are you Cal, are you going to make a statement?
Well, he opened the door.
Okay.
And, I love Corey, but just a little bit of advice, you don't open that can of worms, and then you don't go first in that situation. As was alluded to, and I'll start with an apology for those folks in Ridgecrest, Cal City. I haven't been around much. I will tell you that our wildfire mitigation plans have kind of sucked the oxygen out of the room. As most of you know, there's 3 components to that. There's the grid hardening, and if you live in the Kern River Valley, parts of Tehachapi, high fire risk area, you've seen helicopter flights, you've seen a lot more crews out there. We've inspected every conductor, every cross arm. If we find something, we replace it. We're looking at covered conductor. We've got some that we put in Tehachapi already, with more to come. Not so much here on the desert floor, but when you get up into the hills, the vegetation management piece, that gets a lot of attention, particularly up in the Mountain Lakes region. And then our public safety power shutoff. And obviously that has come to a town near us. The first couple, Tehachapi was shielded from that through some switching. This last one, I think we all kind of got flat-footed and surprised. I think the city had surprised some of our folks at the district level. And in response to that, what we're really looking at is, from an engineering perspective, whether we can do some load rolls, whether we can add some switches, there's some underground components to try to shield Tehachapi from those what we call 322 circuits. And so more on that later. I think it's just generally speaking, as you've probably seen, the news reports, PG&E's been about 1.2 million customers that were impacted. That's not people, that's customers. I think at the height of ours, we're at 115,000. And we've taken a little more granular approach to this by looking at the circuit level, which is why we're able to have the discussion with Tehachapi versus PG&E. They will do more of a transmission level, which affects every circuit downstream from that. Out of that discussion, community resource centers. We're looking at the possibility of partnering with commercial developments. There has been some discussion about Walmart in Tehachapi. I think that Greg and I need to talk about that a little further, or a little bit more. In some other areas like Ridgecrest, we have been working with Ridgecrest city staff to provide load calculations on what their requirements are to keep Kerr-McGee. That's kind of the epicenter out there. We learned during the Ridgecrest earthquake that we might have an opportunity there. There's some Cal OES grants that will provide some resources. We're also looking at the fairgrounds in the Kern River Valley. We're looking at the senior center, and we're in discussions with them. And then probably from an economic perspective, we should know first, second quarter next year. Right now, we're using our property in the Kern River Valley as a laydown yard for our wildfire mitigation efforts in the region. We should know first, second quarter if we're going to kick off our construction and utilize that for a formal service center. So I heard some Kern River Valley discuss, that's $25 million investment that will go in there should we pull the trigger. If not, we'll continue to use it for our wildfire mitigation. And I want to close with this. I've heard a lot of discussion about education, STEM education. Every year, Southern California Edison gives away $30,000, $40,000 scholarships. Last year, nobody from this side of the mountain received an Edison scholar. And I want to change that this year. It's $1.2 million, again, 30 students, $40,000 a student. And so if you can help us get the word out, you can either go on our website or send me an email and I'll shoot you the link. But I think we need to really work to make sure that this side of the valley is representative. I know that there's some students out here that are worthy of it. We just got to get the word out to our educators and make sure that they're encouraging.
I think Kelly's going back to school.
I learn every day. You're ahead of me.
Well,
And I'll just close with that. I tried
to. Great closing. Any other comments?